The old man of the mountain. Beard and a crooked stare, tramps along with the folks all scared. With a tickle in his eye, he passes them by, the old man of the mountain, for he wears long hair and his feet are bare. They say he's mad as a grizzly bear. His cares are none and he fears no one. The old man of the mountain, he talks with the bears when he's lonely, sleeps with the sky for a tent, and he'll eat you up when he's hungry, and it wouldn't cost him a red cent. And he'll live as long as an old oak tree. He'll eat up fools like you and me. Oh, I often sigh and jump and cry at the old man of the mountain.
I'm going up to see that old man of the mountain. What's the matter?
The old man of the mountain. Mountain. You got to ho-dee-ho.
You gotta ho-dee-ho.
You got to hide-dee-hide.
You gotta hide-dee-hide.
You got to heat-dee-heat to get along with me.
Yeah, man,
You got to learn my song.
I got to learn your song.
If you do me wrong,
I'm gonna do you wrong.
you got to kick the gong to get along with me.
What you gonna do now?
Gonna do the best I can. You got to hide-dee-hide.
You got to hide-dee-hide.
You got to heat-dee-heat-dee-heat.
You got to heat-dee-heat-dee-heat.
You got to head-dee-head-dee-hey to get along with hay.
Hi.
Hey, ho! When your sweetie tells you everything will be okay, day. Just keep it the bop and the good to skilly big hip the bop up the bip for day. If you feel like shouting, advertise it just this way. Skiddy to scatter and skip it the hurry up, skiddy bitty well. Skiddy to give it the bop up and the skilly bitty hop, dilly bitty hop, dilly bitty lay. Oh, skiddy bitty well. Skiddy bitty ditty, scatter skilly billy horry gilly billy what? Skid booty.
Was not the followers, the Maggotites, who attacked the Capitol. No, not the ones wearing the colors, the emblems, holding up the banners of the Maggotites. No, it was their enemies that did attack them. Oh, even though it has been chiseled and stoned, and even though they chiseled their own names in stone and left more than enough prop evidence to prove who they are, and assaulted and killed guards, no, it was not them, it was their enemies. Yes, do you think that the liar would lie? No, I think his tongue stings like a serpent.
Submitting a contribution to Dr. Hal with your question is only a website away. Direct your favorite web browser to https://co-fi.com/askdrhal. You will be taken to a website where all you need do is decide what wisdom is worth to you. You may also use the message block to submit your question. We will read these on the show. Now, simply press the donate button. Next, you will be asked for your email address. Don't worry, we never sell or solicit. PayPal handles the transfer of funds from your hands to ours. Simply put the information for your favorite credit card in the appropriate place and you're done. Links to Dr. Hal's tip jar can also be found on the Ask Dr. Hal website at https://gonzotronics.net/ADH for Ask Dr. Hal. Links may also be found on the ADH website for the tip jar of our musical accompanist, St. Inkfinger.
Now sleeps the crimson petal, now the white, nor waves the cypress in the palace walk, nor winks the gold fin in the porphyry font. The firefly waken, waken thou with me. Now droops the milk-white peacock like a ghost, and like a ghost she glimmers unto me. Now lies the earth all Danae to the stars, and all thy heart lies open unto me. Now slides the silent meteor on, and leaves a shining furrow, as thy thoughts in me. Now folds the lily all her sweetness up, and slips into the bosom of the lake. So fold thyself, my dearest, thou, and slip into my bosom, and be lost in me.
Arduino is a word that some folks haven't heard yet. It is a very popular device. They are inexpensive, with prices starting at a few dollars. They don't look like much, but you know what they say about not judging a book by its cover. They're astoundingly powerful tools for creation and experimentation. The Arduino hardware is open source. This means that the design for building one is available for anyone to use freely. You can actually go out, get a few parts, and build one yourself. But more on that later. Most everyone today, however, picks one of these boards up pre-assembled. Arduinos fall into the class of devices called microcontrollers. These are sort of like computers in that they are programmable and capable of performing logical and mathematic functions. But they are more like the computers inside of a thermostat than the kind that you might find on someone's desktop. Where they excel is at their ability to take information from the outside world, like, say, temperature, perform an analysis on the data, and then trigger a reaction, such as lower the heat. The Arduino can do more than this, however, and there are a wide range of sensors, motors, accessories, and a whole range of products that make the Arduino do whatever anyone could imagine it doing. In part, I will show you some of its potential. Now, of course, the Arduino is programmable, and to really take advantage of its power, learning the language that programs it is highly beneficial. The native language of the Arduino is C, and while it isn't really too terribly difficult to learn, with a bit of patience and perhaps time, some folks find that a daunting task. Not to worry, however. Children 8 years old and younger have been taught to program these devices using programming languages such as Scratch to create code using building blocks of operations that are combined into a working program. Anyone can learn all of the basics of using this sort of software on a rainy afternoon. Rather than talk about what Arduino can do, it's probably easier to show you. The video I am using tonight was originally provided by Gonzotronics. The link for the original video is supplied at the end of this monologue. We thought they compiled an excellent example of the potential power of the Arduino platform. So, allow me to be your guide as we look at those examples. As we said earlier, the Arduino is open source. This means that the plans for building one is readily available, and many people have done so. All it takes are a few parts placed on a breadboard and wired together. Someone with a small amount of experience playing with electronics could cobble one of these together in an hour or so. Kits are also available with all the parts that you need, as well as a circuit board to solder those parts too. If you want to just jump in though, purchase one of these pre-assembled. It'll make your journey a little easier. Now this is really interesting. This uses several different technologies all kinda cobbled together in ways that I'm sure their manufacturers never fully foresaw. Here we see a readily available robotic arm kit interfaced to an Arduino, which is communicating with a PC. This, in turn, is connected via wireless communication to a cell phone, which is being leveraged for the range of onboard sensors that the cell phone has available to it. As its inventor moves their hand, a signal is sent to the robotic arm, which in turn mimics the action. This is the same sort of technology that controls those exosuits that you see in the science fiction movies. That's pretty cool. Now this is harder than it looks. What you have are 4 spinning motors, but if you didn't have a controller on them, that thing would spin wildly out of control. I really don't like the idea of an airborne food processor. So, what you have here is an Arduino keeping all 4 propellers spinning at exactly the correct speed in order to maintain the stability of the platform. Slight variations in those speeds are controlled to allow the quadcopter to be steerable.
a story about Minnie the Moocher. She was a slow down hoochie. She was a roughest, toughest friend. But Minnie had a heart as big as a world. She messed around with a poke named Smokey. She looked down he took her down to old Chinatown and showed her how to kick the corner around. All the things that she was like. He gave her a house built of stuffed nails and diamond car with a driver around. Howdy, 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 ho. Oh, yo, 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 yo. Skidoo, skidoo, skidoo. Peter Bolito on the trumpet. Pauline Pratt.
Oh, hello! Welcome, people of Rome, friends, lovers, countrymen. It's the middle of a riot here at the Capitol by the Maggotites. You know, the followers of Trampus Magamus. It seems that he does not believe in elections. He thinks that he should be emperor, throws the republic to the toilet, and using the rhetoric of the fools, he speaks to the hoi polloi, or the rabble, or the barbarians, and they hence attack us here in the Capitol. I have always, as a senator, believed that we should always be equal to one man with property to one man with a vote. Otherwise, the hoi polloi, as you can see, will believe that they should take it into their head to, oops, it's time to go!
Look, I even made sure my microphone was on. Imagine that. That's a first. We haven't done that before. Usually you get me going, pressure, turn your mic on. Oh yeah, I forgot. You want to hear?
Write this one into the record books.
Yeah, I tell you what, I've been like waiting this whole time to make sure my mic was. So I'm very proud of myself. Happy Valentine's Day, Saint Inkfinger.
Well, happy Valentine's Day to you and St. Joyce as well.
We sent you flowers, but they probably froze on the way.
Probably all for the best.
We've got actually all kinds of events that are going on. We've got Mardi Gras happening this Tuesday. Fat Tuesday is happening, although it's a little subdued this year, but still nonetheless, I'm sure it's going to be a wonderful thing. We've got Groundhog Day that we just had pass, and apparently Punxsutawney Phil did see his shadow, and we're destined for 6 more weeks of winter. So my apologies for the bad news there. I'm with Bill Murray. I'm thinking that it's going to happen right around March the 20th, like it usually does. But you know, I'm a realist that way. And
are you really going to take your weather cues from an overgrown woodchuck?
You know, yeah. We have all kinds of plants.
I'm all for a holiday. Don't get me wrong.
We have all kinds of plants already coming up in our yard. The snowdrops are getting ready to actually bloom. We have a couple of hellebores in our yard, and they're blooming. So spring is coming. It's.
You mean hellebore is a plant?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very pretty. I
thought you had like feral hogs or something.
Oh no, well, not that I know of. They could. We did actually have a feral hog one year. Someone's pig got loose and it went completely wild. And I walked into my backyard and found myself 50 feet away from it, staring into its cold, black eyes.
Yeah, that's not a good place to be.
Oh, no, he was about 400 pounds. He was huge.
And they will eat anything.
Oh, yeah, I backed away from that one very slowly. But yeah, I actually came to face with a feral hog once. Yeah. Hey, we do have a pretty cool bonus, a question bonus this week, or this month rather. I have these in my hand. These are a thing that we call butthurt bears. Now,
and just why would it be a butthurt bear there, Pontius?
Well, these are actually, if you have children, we also call them boo-boo bears. And the idea behind it is you put an ice cube in the little pocket here, and if you have a sore spot, you put the little ice cube on your sore spot, and it's soothing. So if you have children, these are nice things to have. But we call them butthurt bears because we've entered butthurt season. It seems that every year this time, people all of a sudden, their hackles get up and they get offended about the smallest little things. And so our message is to just cool off. And we have a poem that will accompany these. We have 5 of these that we will be sending out to people and giving them away. And I have the poem here. Now I'm gonna steal Dr. Hal's act, and I'm gonna recite a poem for you. When drama invokes and reason revokes, when somebody's joke makes your third nostril smoke, when your sphincter gets puckered over words that were uttered, in the chaos and clutter, I'll show them, you mutter. When your rage has you shaken and your butt gets to aching, perhaps it is time for some air to be taken. Perhaps it is time for some ice to be making. For those times you now have butt hurt bear, and you can take him anywhere. Fill him up with ice cubes square and rub him on your derriere. He'll cool your ass. Your rage will pass. Your friends will last. It's over so fast. You also get the poem along with Butthurt Bear. So, for all those times that you experience, you know, that chafing where human beings are just chewing on your butt, and you're just so tired and so sore, and you just wish the world would go away. Well, you stuff this little head with ice and you jam it up your butt, and it helps. It really does help. I've used it myself. So.
Well, not that bear in particular, I hope.
No. Everyone will get a clean bear, fresh off of Saint.
COVID-free bear.
Yes, you all get fresh bears. Thank you for asking. I'm glad we clarified that. It's very important that people know
can't be too sure
that they get hygienic bears. All bears have been washed lovingly in the stream of our best wishes.
Because cleanliness is next to bobliness.
Oh, you have no idea. You have no idea. Hey, I'm going to say something that I never thought I would ever say to people. Follow us.
Oh yeah.
That's
if you are on the Facebook or are going to be on there, look yourself up the Friends of Dr. Hal Show and join up. And that's the best way to keep track of when we're going to be doing shows and what's going to be going on in the shows. And I apologize for the lack of content on the page right now, but we're just getting it rolling as of yesterday. So we already got a few people signed up. So don't forget that if you're on Facebook, go to the Friends of the Ask Dr. Hal Show and hit that join button.
Very good. And also, because we're out on Twitch, we're trying to get that requisite number of followers. And I never in my life thought I would ask people to follow us. It's almost abhorrent to me. But nonetheless, it's how we do business out here in this wide world. It's all about who likes you. So show us this Valentine's Day how much you like us, and follow us on Twitch. We would be that would be our Valentine's Day present from all of Dr. Hal's fans. We would very much appreciate that. Also, do know that we are putting all of our archival footage of the show out on YouTube. And this show will be out there in about a week as soon as I get around to going through the edits on it and all that sort of thing. But all of our previous shows are out there on the web, out on YouTube. So if you like us on YouTube, please be sure to like us there. It feels so awkward to ask people to like you.
They like me. They really like me.
Oh, I know. I feel so sad and lonely asking people to, would you please like me? But would you please like me? But don't like me so much as you like Dr. Hal. And you know, everybody came here tonight to see Dr. Hal, so I think this might be a good time to say, before I do that though, I did want to mention the Perseverance lander. We have another Mars lander. This one's very exciting. It has a little helicopter attached to it that they're going to try and fly around the atmosphere of Mars, which right out of science fiction. It's lovely stuff. But it's going to be landing on February the 18th. By all means, watch it. It's fascinating. They're going to do another sky crane. It's going to be breathtaking. So wonderful stuff. And but without further ado, I'd like to bring on the person who we would not be here tonight. The show certainly would not be Ask Dr. Hal without him. So here we go. Dr. Hal, you're getting ready to come on. Friends, guests, and colleagues, we now present to you a person who needs no introduction. Here before you in the flesh, Hal and Al himself, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Hal Robbins.
In my craft or sullen art, exercised in the still night, while only the moon rages, and the lovers lie abed, holding their griefs in their arms, I labor by singing light. Not for ambition, or bread, or for the strut and trade of charms on the ivory stages, but for the common wages of their most secret heart. Not for the proud man, apart from the raging moon, I write on these spindrift pages, nor for the towering dead with their nightingales and psalms, but for the lovers, their arms round the griefs of the ages, who pay no praise, nor wages, nor heed my craft or art. Well, it's a pleasure to be here, and happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day, Dr. Hal. Well, always a pleasure to see you. It's always an honor to have you here.
Trust it is a happy Valentine's Day. Many are no doubt sated with eating chocolate-covered cherries and Whitman's samplers, inhaling the perfumes of floral arrangements of roses in all their splendid array. And all of these observances should be made. But as long as we coincide with that holiday, we are happy that you spend a little of it with us. And we do have quite a show assembled, which we hope will please you.
Well, I think we have quite a show lined up. The first part of the show is going to be a hard act to follow. Boy, did we have some good content for the first part of the show.
Well, people volunteered it, and more power to them. But now we have to prove our virtue by actually answering the questions that this show is about. Of course, we can't do that unless we receive questions. Do we have any in the hopper?
We do, but we can always use more. So I would like to let our audience know, please send us questions. You do not have to send in a donation first. You can always ask the questions, and you can owe us because we trust you. Imagine that. You get trust as well as a good show. Where else can you get such value? But I do have some questions. I have a question here from Dr. Penny, and actually, I will get you a price on a cost on that in just a moment, what the offering was. But the question is, wearing 5 masks at once looks very stupid to me. In Subgenius, we have a saying: the stupider it looks, the more important it probably is. As such, what is that more important to be found at the sight of someone wearing 5 masks at once?
Well, thank you, Dr. Penny. Your question is characteristically intriguing. 5 masks would certainly frustrate the poor, pathetic, tiny, and yet somehow strangely powerful coronavirus, which has no ability to move on its own. It must be wafted by the winds and the breezes and the magic hand of chance through every opening in the cloth of the mask that's attached to your face. And it is thought by the best, most reputable authorities that 2 masks make it a truly impassable barrier. But of course, there are those who want to be extra secure. According to you, they wear 5 masks. I've never seen it done, but knowing human nature, I know that this is probably quite likely. As long as the vital necessity of breath itself is not impeded, why not wear as many masks as make you feel secure? But the powers that be, and those powers do be, suggest 2, a number that is easily divisible, not the perplexing odd number of 5. We hope that you'll be safe, however many you choose to wear. And thanks for that question. Some questions can, add filigree and decoration to. I'm not sure when you ask about something specific that I can do that, but we aim to please here.
Dr. Hal, by the way, that was a $25 question.
Oh boy. Well, I hope I did it some credit.
And let's see. I have another question here. Audience members, please get those questions into us. We are not a Ask Dr. Hal show without your asking the questions. So get those into the hopper.
It's like interactive, and you do the asking.
Let's see. Bringing it up now. For some reason, Ko-fi is not. Oh, I do have it here. This is an $11 question, Hal.
Alrighty.
And MLK said the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. But is it possible that the arc of the moral universe is longer than the arc of the global climate and environmental disaster? Will the whole game be lost before we win justice?
Well, it depends on the individual, on where the individual is placed in time. And so one may well believe this and have faith that in the end all inequities will be rectified by the sure descent of the arc of the universe. That doesn't mean that you personally will get it. If you sit back and wait for it to happen, it may only happen to your remote descendants, who will occasionally tell each other with a tear in their eye how badly their ancestors suffered under the unjust rule of the immoral exercise of power. You know, fairy tales, the classic ones, often end with the restoring of good government. And they start with government in a bad state, the reign of an evil king or queen or a tyrant. But at the end, the powers that be, the immanent will that stirs and urges everything, have managed to make it come around right. Perhaps what you should consider, rather than debating the rightness of this axiom, is assume it is right, then how quick will you get the sugar? It will come faster depending on how much effort you personally put into it. And as long as somebody gets it somewhere along the line, that's as much as we have reasonable hopes of entertaining.
We have a question here from a Saint Reverend Dr. Copy Bob, and it is a $12 question.
That's one more than the last one.
Yes, it is. I love even numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I prefer odd numbers, but
well, yeah, but even odd. I love any number. Numbers are good.
Well, you see, the even is she loves me not, but the odd is she loves me. Anyway, what's the question?
The question is it really true that too much is better than not enough?
That's a damn good question, and one that places me at a slight disadvantage because, in order to answer it properly, I have to question one of our sacred subgenius axioms, printed in the Book of the Subgenius and even in pamphlet number 1, that mysterious Xeroxed epistle on greasy paper, still available from the church, where we emphatically state, too much is always better than not enough. But I feel that this particular axiom is open to question. I now am sort of cornered into a bit of subgenius heresy, because too much is not, in my view, always better than not enough. And it all depends on what you're getting. It's too much strawberry rhubarb ice cream is certainly better than not enough. But in other examples, too much is the worst thing. And the reason for that is in the nature of evil itself. Evil is, well, in a word, evil. And that means there's nothing good about pure evil. And that means evil is not creative. Evil cannot create anything. Evil can only come up with something which is a perversion of good. This perversion usually comes as a factor of disproportionate size. Too much of one element gets out of control and generates evil. So if this axiom is too freely applied, you may be getting the feces-covered end of the stick. It's a shame that I have to say that, because in general, when we're talking about the daily transactions between ourselves, and especially between subgeniuses, it does hold that too much is always better than not enough. But too much growth is cancer. Too much food is gluttony. Too much love is perversion. Too much money is plutocracy. You have to pick and choose what is too much and what is right for you, because there is something stronger than this transactional supposition, and that is the endless search of the subgenius for what transcends it all, the quality, quiddity, and quantity of slack.
Hal, there's a couple of comments of note coming from the audience.
I knew it. You see, I blew some subgenius philosophy there. Only my severe love of honesty caused me to do that. I'm sure it'll be forgotten. As they say in Russia, in 100 years, who will know the difference?
Well, the sacred scribe himself, Reverend Ivan Stang.
Oh no, Stang was listening while I
said,
became a momentary heretic.
He said, it's a terrible rule to live by.
Oh, well, that's kind of what I was saying.
He has clarified that to say too much Everclear, for instance, is not better than not enough.
Mm-hmm.
I can concur.
Oh, well, still, in basic transactional intercourse between people, too much is certainly to be desired over too little. Perhaps we should leave it at that.
So, yes. He did almost say that there is another addition to that is essentially it's almost as bad.
Thank gobs. Well, you see, there you go. The Church of the Subgenius has an out for you if you are in a philosophical blind corner.
And there you are. Now, I have a $3 question, but this is $1 million question. Dr. Hal, what is...
Somebody gets a bargain, maybe.
This is definitely a bargain. Dr. Hal, what is truth?
Well, the answer I would give is truth is what remains independent of you, the seeker. Whether or not you can find it, it is out there. But falsehood is adaptable and can always be in the way when you're searching for the actual answer that you need. Truth has the ability to survive and to reveal itself when comes its turn.
Very good. And that was Reverend Romulak, by the way.
Oh, all right. Yes, from the planet of the cone head.
He didn't have his name on the question, but much like any other terrorist organization, he took credit for it.
Mm-hmm. That's fine. Art is synthesis, and this show, we hope, is a kind of art.
Very good. I have a question here. Let me open it up so I can see how much it is. Ko-fi has changed some stuff around. This used to be a lot easier than I'm having with it tonight, but I've figured ways around it. This is a $15 question. It is from Reverend Wolfgang Amadeus Gotthardammerung. And what can you tell us of the prehistoric terror bird? How terrifying were they? Did they taste as good fried?
If you could kill your terror bird or your large dinosaur or whatever, they're mighty good eaten, but they are rare at the present time. But the terror birds were large bipedal birds which grew into a major predator and major personality in the world after it was denuded of the giant reptile. And some of them were right here in the U.S. In fact, some of the most spectacular ones were where Florida is now. The Foros Ricos was down there, the one seen in Mysterious Island. There was also the Diornis with its enormous bill. Some people say its giant, scary beak was only for cracking nuts. I say I wouldn't want to be one of those nuts. So these huge birds, their wings became tiny, their legs became huge, and their place in the scheme of things became central. And the poor primates, because the primate order was certainly represented there, though they didn't look like the primates of today, had to scurry for cover so as not to be speared and gobbled up by the ruthless bill of a gigantic bird. There are large birds today, of course, and even a goose, when it's in a bad mood, can be a terror if it gets the idea that it wants to give you some harassment. But birds went through an incredible radiation in their time, and there were huge flying birds. This is not generally known, as large as very large pterosaurs, although there was no bird as large as the largest flying reptile. There were birds which almost were toothed birds because they developed a jagged bill with projections, though they did not actually have teeth in their bills like the earlier toothed birds of the Mesozoic, which we call enantiornithine birds, or opposite birds. Our birds today are ornithurines, regular type birds, but some of those grew to gigantic proportions. The huge vultures of the Cenozoic were big, but there was one like an Arctic, almost like a gull, which was unthinkably huge. Anyway, it's all for those who enjoy delving into the fossil record, like me. I wonder what these here birds would have been like to meet in person. The fact that we're in the Holocene epoch and a place where birds are on the defensive means that we don't have to worry about them too much.
Very good.
Well, I could have said that also in cryptozoology, people are always recording and commenting that they were affronted by hella big birds that came out of nowhere, but that is the nature of that. Yeah. I was looking at a comment, but...
Oh, okay. Dear Dr. Hal, and this is from Numinous Slime, and it is a $12 question, and it's, Dear Dr. Hal, how did the heart symbol, the classic cardioid shape, come to be?
Well, it's a stylized symbol, numinous, as you know, because the heart is not so symmetrical. But the heart had a symbolic place and virtue. Even as a small child, I was somewhat nonplussed, perhaps even a little disappointed, when in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs we see the heart that the huntsman turned into the evil queen that was supposed to be Snow White's. And good heavens, this thing looks like a Valentine's Day heart. Surely that wouldn't fool the evil queen or fool anyone. However, perhaps in this case it would have looked like that. The drawn heart, like the one on our last flyer, appears to have 2 lobes or chambers, but the human heart has 4 chambers, as we know, or atria, as they are called. It is surrounded by a mesenteric bag called the pericardium, and during rheumatic fever, which is often the precursor to acute bacterial endocarditis, this becomes infected. But at no time does it ever resemble the Valentine's Day heart. The Valentine's Day heart exists by itself in the world of symbols, the Platonic world, where instantly identifiable, it does the work of many academically rendered hearts with their valves and their covering. I suppose people didn't know, really, because dissection was forbidden by the Mother Church, and their experience, if they were lucky, was not to encounter an excavated heart on the battlefield or in the torture chamber. Some people, however, did have that experience, and they, more than others, would realize that the pretty Valentine's Day heart was only an abstraction, however valuable it may be.
We have a $3.78 question coming in from our friends over at the Zoom channel for Winterstar, and it is, why, please tell me why, Dr. Hal?
Why?
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 Why? Why?
Well, $3.78 is a very specific sum. And the question, however, is general. But even as a general question, it has a general answer, which is also specific. The question is, why? The answer is, because.
That was a $3.78 answer if ever I've heard one. Worth every penny.
Now on sale. Well, thanks to all our friends at Winterstar. We hope that we're adding to their proceeding.
We have a question that came in from our chat line over here from Reverend Stang, although by way of Princess Wee. And it says, Princess Wee has a question. Is the profile image on the Ask Dr. Hal page a picture of you grossly stylized by some computer process? Stang doesn't think it looks like you.
Is that the... there's a fellow named Marty Kenny who created that. He did the portraits of many people that way, and it's a big close-up of my face with all sorts of different colors and layers and so on. And yet the Stangs themselves enjoy distorting their faces with computer technology, and even created a comedic DVD, which they were kind enough to send me, where Stang and Wee's heads expand as their chins shrink, and vice versa. The unusual, even disturbing plasticity of the flesh, which the digital process makes possible, is most memorably shown there. But in thinking about that, I seem to have lost the track of what the original question is. Perhaps you would be so kind as to remind me what I'm answering?
What was Dr. Hal page, a picture up? It just scrolled off my screen. Hold on a minute.
Is it the picture that's shown in our opening montage?
I believe it is, yes.
Yeah,
And
well, it's somebody's idea of how to depict a face unusually, and it is based on my actual face. Despite its variegated color, there's no distortion of the eyes, nose, and mouth, only an extreme, perhaps some would say uncomfortable close up, and a color pattern not found in nature. But it is found in art in that picture. There are plenty of pictures of me on the internet, and I generally prefer not to look at them, being vain in my secret heart and disappointed by any such image.
Hal, I will tell you, I chose that picture when I set everything up because I think it's a very handsome picture of you.
Well, that's very good. I'm glad that you do.
I thought it was very becoming.
Well, perhaps it's not so becoming for the fans, but we'll see what other pictures we might find. What about the one I put up just to advertise this show of me as a grotesque insect? Did anybody like that one, I wonder?
I thought it was wonderful, but
well, there you
your
go.
mileage. But you know, I'm easy. I'm a cheap date.
Yeah. Well, some we can answer well, some we have to stab at and hope that we spear something. Let's see what the next one is that we're getting.
Let's see. I have one here from Johnny is Wrong. And let me open it up so I can see what lovely amount. This was for $6.66.
How about that?
Forget about who. How was the ram put in the Ramalama Ding Dong?
This is part of who put the bop in the bop she bop, and who put the ram in the Ramalama Ding Dong. Who was that man? I would like to shake his hand. He made my baby fall in love with me. That is the who, but there you're asking how. Well, how is through the magic medium of music. Music that hath charms to soothe the savage breast. Sweet music hath such power in store. You've got to be open and receptive to it. The most divine melody, warbled by angels and played on Empyrean harps, will not affect the dull fellow whose mind is on the next burrito he's going to eat. No, you have to be in a receptive mood. And ideally, the sweetheart also must be there. And then the magic connection of song or poetry or sound itself may be felt and appreciated. I assure you that this is the case.
By the way, Reverend Magdalene says she loves you as a grotesque insect.
Well, that's good. I'm glad she loves me as anything. The grotesque insect was part of our Valentine's Day thing. See, we put it in the middle of that heart which we were mentioning earlier. Well, on with the show.
Let's see. This is from Reverend Magdalene, and Joyce just handed this over to me. Scientists believe stars are gaseous balls of flame producing light. Yet others believe the Earth is surrounded by black paper with holes punched in and bright light behind. What is your opinion?
Well, as far as the star being a gigantic ball of a hydrogen-helium fusion reaction, that is what a star is made of. The question beyond that is that what a star is? What we experience is what is to us. This theory that there was a large covering with holes in it and the stars shining through it is an astronomical theory of earlier ages. One which I illustrated in a book where I did a number of astronomical illustrations. I forget whose theory precisely it was, but I made a drawing showing how that was supposed to work. what is it called? Is the book called Astronomy? It was published by North Atlantic Books several years ago, perhaps in 2015. At any rate, this theory, as a practical theory, has been discarded. But as far as how the lights in the firmament, the lights of heaven, appear to us, it may still have some value as something which stimulates the imagination and the world of dream. To the ancients, the stars showed the perfection of the heavens because they were fixed and did not move, unlike the planets, which can be seen to move, and the moon, which moves very prominently. And so it was a big shake-up in this order of things when the first nova, the explosion of a distant star in its light, reached the Earth, causing thought to be that maybe there was a shake-up in heaven somewhere.
Gofflin suggested that, Professor Gofflin suggested that God forgot to punch holes in our terrarium.
But he certainly punched a whole bunch because the stars are infinite, even from Earth. When you add a little bit of magnification, you can see even more. The Hubble telescope has found even more. It's one of those things where the more you look, the more you see.
We haven't seen nothing yet.
Oh, some of them are so large that our sun becomes a tiny pipsqueak in the galaxy compared to it, like Betelgeuse, for example. Certainly a first magnitude star.
Well, Hal, speaking of outer space and that whole final frontier, we have a movie clip from a movie called Space Hunter: Adventures in the Forbidden Zone. And
may I relate an anecdote about that movie?
You may, and I was hoping you would.
All right. Well, I think I know the scene you're going to show, and it is the scene that is revealed here. Many movies about outer space were hurriedly produced when Star Wars took off like a Roman candle, and people saw the possibility of the money spigot emptying on them. However, often the studio would simply say, put these things into production and we'll get back to you. Somehow, in the making of this movie, the script specified that the hero and heroine, who is in fact Molly Ringwald, would go into a cave where they would encounter terrifying bat people who would drop down and chase them. But a typo occurred in bringing this script to the production department. Instead of a B, there was an F. And so they created fat people to hang upside down in the cave and drop down and chase them. And by the time this was discovered, there was no more money in the budget to create bat costumes. And so what I think you're going to show is the terrifying effect of the disgustingly fat people created by a simple error substitution. Well, let's go to that tape now.
Let's do it.
There they come, out of their plastic calls, hanging from the ceiling, the disgraceful fat folks who drop down, squeezed out of their coverings like enormous excretions. Now she's climbing down the manhole, but doesn't know that there are fatties down there too, reaching with their repulsively jiggling arms, trying to grab her legs. This is a terrifying position to be in. If it were bats, it would be bad. If it were fat people, it's even worse. There's the manhole cover. You'd think that would stop it. But they're strong fat people who can stick their arms right through a steel mesh. Well, that's Hollywood. In the meantime, here come some other fatties who are getting the business end of a ray gun blast. This entire scene, as I said, was created by a typo. And believe me, such things do happen. Yes, fat people are definitely coming for Molly Ringwald, and who knows, they may come for you and me someday. There they are. How does this end? I suppose with a swinging on a vine. It worked for many in the movies. On Earth, those vines are attached at the bottom, which would have been a hard thing for Tarzan if the real Tarzan ever had swung on the vine. The fatties are coming down through the ceiling, coming up through pipes, coming out of the wall. They're climbing out of the woodwork. So let's take off in our equally derivative Mad Max type composited vehicle, maybe running over a few fatzos on the way. Off they go for more adventures in the Forbidden Zone. And perhaps it should have remained forbidden in this case. Well, I hope we still have an audience after that one.
I don't know what would have been more frightening, bat people or fat people. That's
really. The whole idea is that they don't like their cave being intruded upon, and who can blame them?
Maybe they were just hungry.
Maybe so. Maybe they were offering affection. Now they'll never know.
I don't know if you all are noticing, but I'm having to readjust your pictures again. We went through this before the show, and
yes,
now...
I seem to be split into several parts, like Gaul in Caesar's commentary.
You are back as a whole human being, Hal.
That's good.
But yeah, we've been fighting OBS, Open Broadcast Software, all day long, Dave and I. So it can be a persnickety beast. So bear with us, folks.
I'm confident we're in good hands. Why don't you hand me another question, Mike?
Well, here's one right on top, and this is from Ian Lawless Moth, and it is a $10 question.
Oh, good. That is elevated and correct.
Why is there the color blue?
Ah, the color blue is a primary color. It is the basis of color, along with red or cyan, as some say, and yellow. When you mix them together in nature, you get white, the effulgence of pure, blinding white. But strangely enough, in the art world, while you're mixing paints and colors, when you mix all the colors together, you get black. You get the negation of all colors. That is because art itself is a sort of an analog process where we are attempting reproductively and imitatively to duplicate what we see. And all's fair in love and war and art. Without blue, you would not be able to do as well. And yet, in the old forms of color, in two-strip Technicolor, you had only two of these primary colors. Like the Warner Brothers cartoon, I Haven't Got a Hat, which was the first cartoon that Porky Pig appeared in. And, you know, they managed pretty well to represent the colors by mixing the two colors they did have and the various grades of them. But blue is necessary, and blue exists as seen by the human eye. If we could see with the eye of a bee or a giant squid or something like that, we would see more. We would see into the infrared. But as far as our own brains and our own registration of color is considered, now that we have color vision, since our remote ancestors did not, we have evolved the receptors, which translate those wavelengths as blue. In other words, why is there blue? It's because we exist.
There is a kind of an add-on question here from Reverend What the Falk, and it's,
right.
Why did ancient Greeks call the sea wine dark? Some believe they didn't recognize the color blue.
Pardon me. Well, one must wonder what the wine that they drank back then was like. And I have a feeling that wine snobs like the current governor of California would not appreciate it. It was resinous, and it was perhaps not the purple color that we have. But in ancient Rome, in the time of Publius Nulla, in order to show that you had achieved adulthood and were a Roman citizen in good standing, your toga had a stripe on it, which has been represented as purple. But others think it was red, and human color vision was not developed enough at that time to make the distinction. My own thought is that various people, even today, have different levels of color vision. To some, purple, like our idea of the wine dark sea, would only be a blue. To others, with a shift toward the red part of the purple equation, it would certainly be a warmer color. The difficulty is that one can't really see through another's eyes, but it's always a little bit of a chancy thing to try to assume that you can.
Very good. I have a question here from Dr. Billy, who was one of our presenters here today. He was the director for that wonderful music video that we saw earlier, Cab Calloway.
Yeah, great stuff.
And it is a, let me click on this, and it's a $9 question.
Nine.
And it is indeed a $9 question. This question has been debated for decades, perhaps even longer. It is one that could potentially cause a schism, for which we have butthurt bears.
Well, I think I already did that with one answer, but let's see how we...
What is the question? What is the appropriate condiment for a good hot dog?
You know, I've never been able to understand why anyone would put ketchup on hot dogs, but people do. They pour tomato ketchup on dogs. The problem with the ketchup is that it is a sweet sauce, usually containing sugar. Is that appropriate? Well, this is a matter of personal taste. But a hot dog is supposed to have mustard on it, and relish, which may contain finely chopped onion. Onions are very necessary when eating meat, and especially when eating especially refined pork products, because the onion pulls out the long molecule of fat, which otherwise remains in the intestine to cause inflammation and obesity. Nonetheless, de gustibus non est disputandum. If you want to slather your hot dog with ketchup, then as long as it gives you pleasure and most of all slack, you must do so. But I hope you won't do it in front of me, because my sense of rightness is slightly offended by this misapplication. If you were Donald Trump, you would get an extraordinarily good cut of meat and then have it totally overdone and then pour ketchup on it. A sure recipe, expense-paid dietitians tell us, for cancer somewhere down the line. But on the other hand, if you're Trump, nothing can kill you. Let's just say that my own preference is for the mustard side of the spectrum, and that ketchup appears better on beef products than on pork-based products. And there are many sauces, beef products, the A1 sauce, the Worcester sauce, all sorts of red barbecue sauces, and so on, the latter being cognate to ketchup in some way. Others feel the simple, basic experience of wrapping a snorker in a piece of bread and devouring that simple concoction is ideal. Try them all, and come to your own personal decision. Nothing is mandatory at this time. There is no official state way to fix a hot dog. And the sauce provided for a hot dog, which will win all comers, may not yet have been decanted from the vast food laboratories of mankind.
Dr. Hal, I say this without irony. That answer actually made me hungry.
I'm hot dogs. How can you not be hungry?
But
they're good when they're served right. What about chili dogs? That big sloppy mess can be the right.
I am a fan of the chili dog.
Yeah, and then melted cheese and so forth. Maybe you'd like to drop the whole thing into batter and fry it. Yeah, how about it? There are many other things that one could do. Perhaps we'll see after this show a galloping stampede to various kitchens by people who are watching, and a preparation of the Vienna Wienerwurst.
Well, I have a question that may help. This was emailed to us, and it's a question from Spirit Leopard, and it is a $20 question.
Oh, very good.
And it's very apropos for Valentine's Day. My partner has come out to me as a furry. I'm good with this, but I'm wondering how to get stains out of fur. Peanut butter is especially troublesome. Do you have any suggestions? There is an addition there. It's Valentine's Day, and the fur is going to fly.
No doubt it will, because once more I am being asked to make judgments about people's private, personal predilections, but I shall endeavor to pay your patience well. The whole furry thing was never announced with a blast of trumpets. It gradually came to be, and everyone became aware of it, perhaps because a neighbor or a friend of a friend went there. Studies of developmental and psychological anomalies have been done featuring the erotic target identity, which in this case is an inversion of anthropomorphic identities, and the cultivation of a furry animal costume, also called sports mascot syndrome or fuzzy suit syndrome. But as far as getting the stain out of the fuzzy suit, well, actually, think Inkfinger, I think, has a suggestion in that regard, if you care to throw it in.
Well, in my younger days, I used to install carpet, and we had our little click of advice for whenever anybody asked us. And I know that if you spill paint or other things on carpet, actually the best way to clean it is club soda.
Oh yes,
you pour the club soda on a damp rag, and you work it, and it won't come out with the first time. You have to go at it a few times.
Yes,
it will eventually lift out the stain without damaging the fiber. And I'm assuming that the fiber in those costumes is some kind of Dacron nylon polyester, whatever.
It probably is. So it's probably
be the same thing,
washable. And
if not, I would say woolite, if it's a natural fiber.
Mm-hmm. So the universal solvent, water, when added to by the foaming action of seltzer, seems to be something to recommend. Or you could take Shout, that commercial preparation, and apply it personally to the stain before washing it. But what if you're nowhere near the amenity of a modern laundry? This puts me in mind of a poem written by Tracy Feldstein, who attended Burning Man once when a furry was in distress because he couldn't get into the porta potty fast enough in his elaborate suit. At the portas, a furry was screaming, possessed by an intestinal demon. His zipper was stuck. He was shit out of luck. Now the stains on that suit ain't seaman. I hope I said it correctly. But I think the best thing to do would be to go to a wonderful musical feature, which we have. And this feature may answer the question far better than I can. It comes to us through Susie Davis and Jeff Greenwald and their group Tight Pajamas, and the number is called The Squirrel at the End of the Bar. This would be a good time, I think.
I've got it queued up for you.
From our archive.
Here it comes at you, Hal.
There were so many creatures I just had to laugh. Some of the costumes were truly insane. A duck and a tiger, a sexy giraffe. I moved through the room and got into my game. The bar was a cozy menagerie where the anthropomorphic dwell. Though I'm just a smoothie, I like a guy who wears a fursuit well. I came for trouble, I'm an adventurous girl. I know it might sound bizarre. Amid those furry delights, I set my sights on the squirrel at the end of the bar. I flashed him a smile, he reached out a paw and pulled me into an embrace. His soft furry belly pressed closely to mine as he wrapped his tail around my waist. We scurried upstairs, we hopped into bed, two animals in heat. His plastic claws against my neck, those silken ears, those padded feet. Our little bubble, me and my squirrel, together we'll rise to the stars. We'll sleep foot to cheek, dance in the streets, as long as it doesn't get hit by a car. But when I said, kiss me now, that's when it all went bad. 'Cause when he took off his head, he looked just like my dad. So I slipped out of bed, made a quick excuse. I said I preferred kangaroos. Until the head comes off, one just never knows the critter you're about to do. I came for trouble, a sensuous girl. I like things a little bizarre, and I know I'll return with the lessons I've learned from the squirrel at the end of the bar. Where you can leave your head on, squirrel at the end of the bar. Baby, baby, please leave your head on, squirrel at the end of the bar. Next time, you can leave your head on, squirrel at the end of the bar. Oh yeah, baby, you can leave your head on.
Publius Nulla. No, he would never lie. Not Trampus Maximus and that great brain where things are rattling around inside. No. I, Publius Nulla, condemn the actions of the Trampus Maximus followers, the Magetites, in their brazen attack to try to overthrow the Republic for their leader, for those senators who would then turn their backs upon justice and decry that, oh, lo and behold, it's not that bad. Well, then I say perhaps you have a dagger hidden underneath to destroy the Republic with. Obviously, there must be a scandal or a conspiracy against Trampus Maximus and his wonderful followers, who have taken upon themselves to attack the capital, to replace the Republic with an emperor, perhaps, a king, a gentleman, not ideals, but a man known for his untruths.
Now, this drawing machine is entirely hand-built using off-the-shelf parts. It does have some 3D printed parts, also uses various precision motors, but for the most part, it's stock hardware that was used to build a device that is capable of performing very fine detailed work. Lasers, tattoo needles, and even scalpels are some of the devices that have been attached to this type of configuration in commercial applications. But here it is, available for your experimentation on your home desktop. While many machines once connected to a programmable controller can be considered robotic, it was from the beginning that Arduino played a big part in popularizing robotics as a hobby available to the average person. Today, robot kits, plans, and projects on every level of expertise are available to buy, build, examine, or manufacture, and almost all are using Arduino controllers at some level of their construction. To continue speaking of robots, this example illustrates more of what I would describe as a robotic platform. The Arduino is acting as a computerized stabilization system that allows the machine to balance on two wheels, like a Segway. This also illustrates something that was made from more available parts than those purchased off the shelf. Note the wood and the CDs used for wheels. Again, this device could be described as a special purpose robot. It does nothing but manipulate and purportedly solve Rubik's Cube puzzles. Note that it's made from popsicle sticks, wooden blocks, tie straps, some fairly easily found hardware, and a couple of servo motors. To me, this illustrates that there is simply no limit to the creativity that a device like this can inspire in a person, and often those obstacles merely become interesting problems to solve. The marriage of programmable controllers and 3D printers happened a long time ago. However, the Arduino board can be incorporated into virtually any device to be a programmable interface between the real world and hardware. In this case, the Arduino is controlling the temperature of the plastic at the extrusion nozzle, as well as the exact position of the print head at any point on an XYZ axis. This allows the head to leave a thin layer of plastic and, after making multiple passes, produces a 3D image of whatever was programmed. Using this method of printing is a revolution unto itself. Here, an Arduino is being used to create a controlled feedback system. Formally, this is called a Proportional Integral Derivative Controller, or PID. It can also be called a three-term controller. A PID is a control loop mechanism employing feedback and is widely used in industrial control systems and a variety of other applications requiring continuously modulated control. In a nutshell, this means that it can respond to feedback in a way that it can maintain a constant position, whatever the conditions. An everyday example of this is the cruise control on your car, where the power to the engine is varied to maintain a constant speed no matter what the conditions. More power is applied uphill, and less power or perhaps even braking applied downhill. What we've shown you here is a taste of the potentials and possibilities of this versatile and amazing device. Arduinos are yet another tool for creation, discovery, or perhaps even mischief in the 21st century. An electronic magic genie capable of making a creator's wish its very command.
In the last video, I talked about Ray Harryhausen's early career, from his childhood experiments with stop-motion animation to his work as an animator under George Pal and Willis O'Brien. His experience with these masters of special effects led him into an early career of B-movie monster spectaculars, culminating in 1957's 20 Million Miles to Earth. With a track record of monster rampage hits under his belt, and with the involvement of producer Charles Schneer, Harryhausen was on the cusp of creative success almost unheard of in the special effects field. 1958's The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad marked a change in creative direction for Harryhausen. No longer relegated to B-movie sci-fi filler, he and producer Charles Schneer set out to create an action-packed fantasy epic the likes of which moviegoers had never seen. It also marked Harryhausen's transition to color film, and the first marketing push that featured his now famous Dynamation technique front and center. Dynamation was Harryhausen's breakthrough method of creating more realistic composite scenes that integrated both live-action and puppet animation. Sometimes referred to as the reality sandwich, Dynamation consisted of a rear-projected live-action background and foreground matte elements, with the puppet animated between these layers on the filming stage. This made for a compelling in-camera solution to effects animation that, despite its flaws, still reads as fairly realistic. One stunning example of Dynamation in Seventh Voyage is the scene of Sinbad fighting the sword-wielding skeleton. This carefully choreographed scene took more than 3 months to animate. All in all, Seventh Voyage of Sinbad took more than 6 months for Harryhausen to solo animate the many creatures and effects that appear. Interestingly, the armature used for the Ymir in 20 Million Miles to Earth was reused to create the Cyclops in an early sequence of Seventh Voyage. Unfortunately, this means that the famous Ymir puppet is no more. This was the fate of many of Harryhausen's iconic characters, destined to be cannibalized for their parts, though some from his later career still do exist. Seventh Voyage of Sinbad was a box office success, and set Harryhausen down a new path of full-color fantasy epic filmmaking that continued to push his craft into new realms. His next 2 films, The Three Worlds of Gulliver and Mysterious Island, were both effects spectaculars, but were light on the creature animation Harryhausen had become known for. Neither were able to live up to the success of Sinbad, but there's still some great bits of animation in both. I'm particularly fond of the giant crab sequence in Mysterious Island, which was achieved by armaturing an actual taxidermied crab. Both these films feature some interesting uses of taxidermy that he thankfully abandoned in later films. 1963 brings us to what is possibly his best-known work, the epic Jason and the Argonauts. This one is undoubtedly a fan favorite, and according to Harryhausen, his personal favorite too. Jason and the Argonauts feature some of Harryhausen's most complex work. From the giant Talos to the many-headed Hydra, the technical skill displayed in his performances is second to none. Just imagine the amount of concentration it would have taken to animate each of 7 snake-like heads, all moving individually and together as a single character. This is made all the more impressive by the fact that Harryhausen worked alone as an animator, often late into the evening after a long shooting day. Once a shot was started, there was no stopping until it was completed. If the level of concentration needed to animate the Hydra was impressive, then Harryhausen's next feat is the stuff of animation legend. A nearly 5-minute fight sequence featuring not 1 but 7 individual skeleton warriors, all carefully choreographed to match the live-action scene. Even in the age of photorealistic CGI, this scene is still mind-blowing. Just imagine keeping track of each arm, leg, and sword frame by frame over thousands of individual poses. In all, the fight scene took more than 4.5 months to complete, sometimes averaging a mere half-second of action committed to film per day. The The mid-60s were a busy time for Harryhausen, first with the H.G. Wells adaptation First Men in the Moon, followed by the Hammer Film Productions fantasy adventure 1 Million Years BC. While not the most notable of his films, the superb effects and creature animation in both are still worth the price of admission. Following up the prehistoric romp of 1 Million Years BC, Harryhausen returned to his partnership with Charles Schneer for what was considered one of his more bizarre projects, The Valley of Gwangi. Originally a concept imagined by his mentor Willis O'Brien, this Cowboys vs. Dinosaurs spectacle features more than 300 Dynamation shots, a record at that time for Harryhausen. The film is an interesting return to one of his favorite subjects since his first childhood experiments, animating long-extinct species in action-packed settings. Unfortunately, the film never quite found its audience, and was generally panned by critics. Apparently the critical reception was so poor that Harryhausen considered throwing in the towel and retiring. Undaunted by the failure of Gwangi, he returned to a tried-and-true formula for his next two films, revisiting the fantasy epic world of Sinbad, first in 1973's The Golden Voyage of Sinbad, and again in 1977's Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger. In Harryhausen's own words, Sinbad's been good to me. It was a winning formula that he and Charles Schneer figured still had an audience even after more than a decade. Golden Voyage of Sinbad features an iconic sword fight sequence with a 6-armed statue of Kali, again showcasing Harryhausen's incredible attention to complex characters. Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger is another incredible showcase of his creature work, but one character that really shines is his naturalistic portrayal of the cursed prince who's been turned into a baboon. By the 1980s, special effects films were entering a new Renaissance era. Effects-driven directors like George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, and Dennis Muren were hitting the scene, having spent their childhoods influenced by the pioneering films of Ray Harryhausen. Like Willis O'Brien before him, he was about to be eclipsed by the generation of filmmakers that had been studying every frame of his work. Harryhausen decided he had one last feature film in him, 1981's Clash of the Titans. And what a note to go out on. Packed with mythological creatures in an epic fantasy setting, this is Harryhausen at the pinnacle of his 40-year career. It marks the first time he worked with assistant animators Jim Danforth and Stephen Archer, but Harryhausen saves the best sequences for himself, including the dramatic showdown with Medusa. I think one of the most remarkable things about Ray Harryhausen's spectacular 40-year career, entirely aside from his considerable innovations in visual effects, and certainly being one of the most accomplished animators working with stop motion as a medium, is that he managed to build an incredible name recognition brand around himself. Where other artists like his mentor Willis O'Brien lived and worked in relative obscurity, Harryhausen managed to make such a name for himself that he was able to exert a level of creative control over his own projects that is almost unheard of even today. Over the course of 16 films and countless hours of exacting work, Ray Harryhausen constructed a legacy that continues to inspire filmmakers around the world. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.
Politicians are not born. They are excreted. The riotous, treasonous acts committed at the Capitol and condoned by certain senators remind me of the words of Cicero. A nation can survive its fools, and even the ambitious, but it cannot survive treason from within. An enemy at the gates is far less formidable, for they are known and carry their banners freely. But the traitor moves amongst those within the gates freely, their sly whispers rustling through all the alleys, heard even in the very halls of government itself. I am Publius Nulla, Senator for the people.
And there we are. I even still have my microphone on. Imagine that.
Practice makes perfect. I wonder how the audience is doing. I suppose we need to answer some more questions.
We do. Let me, I'm back to fixing our screens again. You all saw me do this before the show, but unfortunately we've just got some strangeness going on, so bear with me for just a minute.
Well, that's the medium we're in. Now we can see only half the Chiron, but I'm sure we'll be getting it back into shape. There, look at it go. It's wonderful. There's nothing like knowing how. I've got to tell you. Not that I do.
It's good sometimes to see how the sausage is made.
Yes, it is, although it may decrease your appetite for sausage. But we already discussed that earlier.
I am waiting for the day that something blows up in magnificent ways, but so far so good. Knock wood, we're doing fine.
Well, if it does, perhaps it'll have an entertainment value that our audience will like.
I will give everyone a fast lesson in how to recover systems in open broadcast software. But anyway, Hal, we have a few more questions. I do want to remind the audience that we still have time for questions tonight. Please, if you want, you can put them into the chat. You can give us contributions, tomorrow or any day you want. We're always willing to accept contributions. And but I do have some additional questions for you. Let me see. I'm not sure. I've got something here from Johnny is Wrong. Let me take a closer look at this. It's a $7.77 question. And it says, "Hey, Dr. Hal, Jesus, man." That's the "Hey, Dr. Hal" is in the form of a question. The "Jesus, man" is in the form of an exclamation.
Well, even so, "Hey, Dr. Hal" is not necessarily interrogative. The interrogative portion has to be in the second part, the Jesus man. And this goes to the central aspect of the received Christian religion. Was Jesus a man, or was Jesus, in fact, a divine being? Christianity allows that both in the mystery of the incarnation are simultaneously plausible and possible. And after all, what is Bob? A funny piece of clip art out of some old phone book, or a living, breathing, seething saint of sales, the slack-holding world's most slackful man? But to get back to the Christians and their ancient Bible story, Jesus, while not on earth, is the most powerful figure in Christian eschatology. It's not the old man, not the Ancient of Days, the God Jehovah with his long beard and white robe, who does anything according to the Council of Nicaea. They determined that Jesus was the operative power, that Jesus laid the foundations of the world and moved the fountains of the deep and so forth, created the animals, created the night sky, did everything, while Jehovah only broods over the cosmos. The idea that there was a time when Jesus did not exist is a Christian heresy, referred to as Arian heresy, from Arius, who was one who espoused it. The poet John Milton believed that. But as soon as Jesus got to earth and entered through the vagina of a human woman, Jesus became a total human, breathing, heart-beating, blood-circulating man. And the Apocrypha of the Bible are amusing there, though not part of the official gospel. The idea that while Jesus was working in his father's carpenter shop, Joseph said, "Hey, we've got a table with one leg too long." So Jesus went, bzzzt, gestured hypnotically like Mandrake the magician, and the legs were magically of an even length. In all religions, these magical stories come in to usurp the philosophical content which is offered. Jesus seems to have had a lot to do as a man, a lot to say to men and women, but the whole idea of his divinity seems to have occurred to later generations who, with their mass burnings, inquisition, and tortures, seem to have forgotten the Jesus part of the equation entirely. If you're reading your Bible story, Jesus is God. If you're reading the Bible itself, Jesus is man. So Jesus man.
Well, that was a surprising answer. There was a lot of Jesus comments going on from the audience.
What a
Apparently
friend we have in Jesus.
that hit quite a nerve for people.
Well, I tried to divert it to Bob, which is more properly our subject, but the question was not about Bob, but only about Jesus, who is perhaps one incarnation of, there we go, of the saint of sales, the world's most slackful man.
Well, you must have hit the nail on the head, Dr. Hal, because Johnny is wrong, who that question was from, said thank you.
Well, you're most welcome, Johnny, nor are you wrong to ask the question.
You don't know him like we do.
Because Johnny is wrong.
Judge them by their fruits, which, curiously enough, Jesus did in one of his temper tantrums. He supposedly blasted a fig tree for not being in season. More un-Jesus-like behavior. Well, let's leave that along and answer the bejesus out of our remaining questions.
I just chopped a fig tree down last year because it wasn't bearing fruit, so I know how Jesus feels.
Well, I hope that you get out of it easier than Jesus did. What else you got?
Perhaps so. This is from Dr. Wolfgang Amadeus Gotthardammerung, and
good.
it is a, let me see, it's a $9 question.
That's
$9. What real-life dinosaur is closest to the fictional Rhedosaurus as seen in The Beast from 20,000 Phantoms from 1952? What about the giant behemoth from 1959?
Well, that's a different species. The giant behemoth is called a Paleosaurus. It looks to be some sort of a carnivorous or omnivorous sauropod. Its locomotion certainly is like that of the larger sauropods, the brachiosaurids. But we're talking about the Rhedosaurus. I would like to point out that at no time during that movie is the Rhedosaurus ever referred to as a dinosaur. And this is appropriate because it doesn't fit into any of the known dinosaur genera. It is not a theropod. It is not a sauropod. It is not an ornithopod. It's dragon-like, and yet it does resemble certain prehistoric animals which are not dinosaurs. The Shringosaurus, for example, is extremely like the Rhedosaurus, except for the fact that it has two forward-pointing horns on its head. But others who have thought long and hard on this question have determined that the Rhedosaurus most resembles a gigantic rhynchocephalian. Now, the tuatara, or rhynchocephalian, is not a lizard, although it looks like one. It is the sole surviving remnant of an ancient order of reptiles. And the Rhedosaurus, if scaled down to a foot long or so, would indeed be called a rhynchocephalian or tuatara. Of course, the reason for its existence was that they needed a dinosaur which wouldn't be dwarfed by New York City when it attacked New York City. So Harryhausen created this particular creature. In the movie, the learned paleontologist Dr. Thurgood Elson says that the Rhedosaurus is a direct ancestor of, and then he points to a sauropod-looking skeleton that is behind him. That skeleton itself has an interesting history. It came from the movie Bringing Up Baby with Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn. They happened to have it on hand, so they set it up in the background of that scene. A scene which shows director Eugène Laurier's wonderful background as an art director, because it really does make you think you're in the paleontology department somewhere. Well, that wouldn't be a sauropod as we know it if it was descended from some damn rhynchocephalian, so we must call it a sauropodomorph, or something that is similar in shape to a sauropod but is not a sauropod. The sauropoda, as well as the theropoda, were Saurician. They are the same type of critter. In classical paleontology, we know this because they have identically the same pelvis. while the ornithopods, the ornithischians, have a bird-like pelvis. Confusingly, these aren't the ones that are supposed to have turned into birds. But I personally don't believe either of them turned into birds, and I believe that birds are, and always have been, their own thing. But in the intricacy of my answer, I seem to have forgotten the question, which, as you know, happens every now and then. Perhaps you could refresh my memory.
Let me go back here and find it. Yes.
I'm
What?
sorry.
Oh, that's fine. What real-life dinosaur is closest to
Oh,
the fictional Rhedosaurus?
So, no dinosaur is close, so now we have to pick a dinosaur that is the closest. This is difficult since it doesn't answer the depiction of a dinosaur. There were carnivorous, quadrupedal, prehistoric reptiles, lots of them, of different clades and categories. But with the head it would have to be some sort of theropod. You're not going to get a head like that on an ornithopod. So, what can I say? The Herrerasaurus. I'll go back to the stem creature of the theropoda, the dinosaur, way back at the beginning, from whom the others evolved. Perhaps it also managed to develop a Rhedosaurus-like thing somewhere, which, if it had either a Saurischean or Ornithischian pelvis, would be classified as a dinosaur. But I have to throw in that not every prehistoric creature is a dinosaur. A plesiosaur is not a dinosaur. A flying reptile, a pterosaur, is not a dinosaur. A mosasaur, not a dinosaur. An etosaur, not a dinosaur. A pelycosaur, not a dinosaur. Dinosaurs were part of a huge, intricate ecosystem. They were the major part of it, but there was plenty going on that didn't involve them. And through such cracks and crevices in taxonomy, even the enormous, bulky, labyrinthine shape of the Rhedosaurus may emerge.
That was a heck of an answer.
Well, I'll also throw in a poem just to show we're not pikers here. And here it is, called Cat. The fat cat on the mat may seem to dream of nice mice that suffice for him and cream, but he, free, maybe walks in thought, unbowed, proud, where loud roared and fought his kin, lean and slim, or deep in den in the east, feasted on beasts and tender men. The giant lion, with iron claw in paw and huge ruthless tooth in gory jaw. The pard, dark-starred, fleet upon feet that oft, soft, from aloft, leaps on his meat. Where woods loom in gloom, there wanders he, fierce and free. Though tamed is he, the fat cat on the mat, kept as a pet, he does not forget. It's 10 o'clock my time.
Ask not for whom the bell tolls.
Yeah, it tolls for thee, or for all who may still be watching. That poem is by Professor Tolkien. Earlier poems were by Tennyson and Dylan Thomas. And we got a million of them on this show, but let's continue.
Dr. Hal, I have a question here. This is from Dr. Van Helsing.
Uh-huh.
And it's an $18 question. And what is the body temperature of a bumblebee?
The body temperature of a bumblebee. You know, when you ask specific questions, the answer may not be as entertaining as speculative questions. Perhaps the person who asked this, my learned colleague, Dr. Van Helsing, is thinking that all insects are generally assumed to be ectotherms. They receive their body temperature from the world in which they inhabit. They do not generate an internal temperature. But with all such rules, there are exceptions. For example, the tuna fish, though a fish, does not take the temperature of the seawater. It's warm-blooded, as a matter of fact. While there are mammals who can suppress their body temperature, and snakes which can elevate their body temperature. In the case of Bombus, which is the genus of the bumblebee, the typical bumblebee has a body temperature of 35 degrees centigrade, which on the Fahrenheit scale is close to the temperature of a human body. Why does this come about? Well, because bumblebees wiggle their wings so rapidly, faster in fact than the hummingbird flaps its, that it generates a great deal of heat. It has to get rid of this heat in some way, and that is why in the abdomen of the bumblebee, where the spiracles or book lungs are found, the bumblebee fans in cooler air to cool itself down because it has this problem. Now, this is, of course, the bumblebee of the temperate zone. In the Arctic bumblebee, which is larger and hairier, has a body temperature, I believe, 15 degrees lower on the centigrade scale. But you see, they do so much work to fly through the air that it generates heat, and thus they are unusual, though I don't have time to get into it not completely unique among insects and arthropods in having a higher body temperature than the environment. A body temperature very close to that of humans, around 96 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm sorry if this was a boring question, but when you ask specific things, then you get a specific answer that doesn't give me much chance for elaboration. Oh, pressure. I'm afraid I'm the one I'm going to have to tell you. There you go.
I finally did it. You got the... I have to do it at least once.
Yes. Twice in this.
But I have another monster movie moment for us, and this one is very appropriate, and I'm going to go ahead and play it right now.
All right.
If
I will narrate it.
If you are ready.
I guess so. Oh, we are here in the imaginary world of 1 million years BC, which is a time when cavemen and dinosaurs existed together, though not peaceably, as you can see by this Allosaurus interrupting a spear fishing session. The Allosaurus is generally of a lower to middle Jurassic stratigraphy, and it is a native of the North American continent. It was later in the Cretaceous that Asian species like Tyrannosaurs and Ceratopsians invaded and took over this territory. But this is not even a fully grown Allosaurus. In my dinosaur book, I cited their length, snout to tail, as 40 feet, and you can see that this is not that. But then why does every dinosaur you see in the movies have to be a full-grown representative specimen? This child in the apple tree would do better not to screech and call the predator's attention to it, but now it's discovered that kid. Things don't look good for it. Fortunately, our hairy hero leaps forward to menace this critter with a spear. Now, this particular portrayal of an Allosaurus was praised by none other than the paleontologist Robert Backer, who said that it was typically vital and fast, and not the sluggish creature it was supposed to be. However, it is based on a representation of Allosaurus, which was done around 1912 or 1908 or something by the great primordial paleo artist Charles R. Knight. And modern folks don't believe the Allosaurus looked exactly like this. However, in a movie with cavemen, who would care? And there they throw a spear, it dislodged an osteoderm. The creature is even madder. Why hide under this flimsy shelter? It can still see you. And so down it goes. Meantime, better get that whining kid out of there for her own good. So, dealing with an Allosaurus doesn't come naturally to this group. They're hosting an outsider who dared to challenge it, but now they show their inexpertise by being gobbled up a second time by this Allosaurus. Fortunately, Tumac, our hero, makes it release him, and now his romantic rival and friend Ahot and he are pushing the Allosaurus back. But you know, it's hard to get on the bad side of an Allosaurus. Now there's only one spear to deal with it. At this point, Ahot hurls his spear, sticks in his neck, the stinging wound is dislodged, and now with this stretcher pole, Tumac manages to have the creature impale itself on the pole, and the death tantrum of the Allosaurus is now taking place. Such a vital creature, it does not want to give up the boon of life, which it does with this extra incentive of a spear stuck through the neck into the spinal cord, through the front of the neck. And you can see the pole is still being moved by the convulsive gasping of the abdomen there. But this is one Allosaurus who's ready for the knacker's yard, as we say. They probably wouldn't be that edible. We don't eat carnivores. We eat omnivores, though. Chickens are quite good. Perhaps the leg would be good. It's difficult to say in a situation suppositional and fantasy-based. But one thing is for sure, the outsider and visitor has beat the home team by daring to challenge one of these, and it is resented also by the romantic rival of Tumac, who wants his own spear back. Fortunately, Loana, his former girlfriend, who is now inclining toward Tumac, says, Tumac, you did well, but this really belongs to Aha. And so we see some harmony restored. That is incidentally a cut and shortened version of the scene. The whole scene really deserves to be seen, but for many years, the American version did not even include all the footage. Now, on Blu-ray, you can get the whole thing, and I think it's well worth watching. If only I had a Blu-ray. I've got it on VHS, though.
There we go, Hal. I'm in the process of adjusting you yet again.
I see.
I'm going to have words with our friends at OBS. There we are. I think I've got you squared away. More, no pun intended.
No BS at OBS.
Yes, no BS.
Well, back to question answering, or do we have any more?
We do. I have a question here from Dr. Reverend Big John. And of all the colloquial expressions for cold, which one actually is the coldest? You undoubtedly know more, but some of the ones I've heard are colder than a well digger's butt, colder than a brass monkey, and of course the perennial favorite, colder than a witch's titty.
Well, I incline to that last one, because those who know have said that witches, as well as their CEO, the devil, are cold when one encounters them in the flesh. I will cement that answer with a quotation from a poem by Clark Ashton Smith called The Witch with Eyes of Amber. I met a witch with amber eyes, who softly sang a scarlet rune, shifting to an icy laughter like the laughter of the moon. Red as a wanton's was her mouth, and pale and fair the breast she bade me take, with a word that clove and clung, burning like a furnace flake. But from that bright uplifted bosom, when I touched it with my hand, came the many-needled coldness of a glacier-taken land. And lo, the witch with eyes of amber vanished like a blown-out flame, leaving but a lichen-eaten stone. that bore a blotted name. Thank you for your question.
Wonderful. Let me see what I have here. I have a question here from No Life Network. Why did they never follow through on that Grew the Wanderer animated series?
I never knew they contemplated such a series, but if they didn't follow through, we can't attribute it to a lack of excellence in the source material, but only in the fact that the adapters did not have the intellectual courage and artistic ability to put it on the screen in a way that satisfied them or anybody else. But as long as Grew the Wanderer exists in some form, then there's always the chance of another adaptation, which may be what the first attempt at it failed to be. Again, you are muted.
Yes, I am.
Unmute thyself.
I am told that we're experiencing some Twitch problems. Twitch froze, and we now have a black screen. Oh, we're back. I think we're having.
Terrible. Did I twitch? Did I appear to twitch while giving my answer, or did the answer not come?
It looks like Twitch is experiencing some technical difficulties right now. I do not believe it is us. I think it's Twitch. So
I think we're
fairly close to the end of the show. Maybe we'll make it to the end without further spasmodic convulsions. I do see a certain twitching going on in the pictorial.
And there we go again.
Yeah, we seem to be, we experience a lot of this on holidays, how it seems to be a lot of bandwidth traffic out in the world. So hopefully.
When I get did that questioner get the answer from me, or was the audio off?
I believe so. Can someone in the audience let me know if you can hear us?
Send us a little squib telling us whether that last answer came through, and we will advance to the next question.
Video buffering used a little, whoops, and then it went away, whatever the message was.
Well,
yeah, and it's something we're all seeing.
With a mind of its own. But we're doing the best we can over here, folks.
We were back for a second, and now we're circling the drain again.
Well, my screen is dark, my voice is not heard?
Right now we're frozen.
Oh no!
And I have a little dot circling in the middle of my screen.
And we're way back in time.
Is video buffering? Use the low latency toggle under the advanced menu, and then it's something went away.
You do, and you'll clean it up. Well, I don't know. Maybe we're being forced to conclude prematurely here, or we should wait for things to fix up.
Yep. I see people are still putting messages in, but our feed seems to have.
It says go into advanced tabs and disable low latency mode.
Faltered. Yes, disable low latency mode by all means, if that will help us.
Wow, it's interesting. We're like 5 minutes behind in the video that's showing.
Zeepers. Well, my answer probably is also delayed in time. As long as they understand that we're not doing it, then we can still achieve a viable level of customer satisfaction.
I think things have gone back semi-normal, but yeah, we seem to be experiencing some internet issues.
Well, that is most unfortunate. But when you're on the internet, you got those issues. Do we have more questions? Shall we try to continue to go forward?
Well, I'm not sure what the audience is getting.
I hope they're getting something.
Bear with me just a minute.
Reverend Stag is you never should have mentioned the Twitch tits.
Oh, maybe that was it. Yes.
That is what, being flagged by some committee of super.
No. Stag was just being a wise ass.
Oh, yeah. Well, it wasn't the topic I introduced. I was saying to answer a question. The answer is that the
So you
poetic.
can hear us, Billy?
I am looking at the settings now to see if there's anything I can do here.
Well, they can hear us, so.
All right. Well, let's do the audio, and maybe the video will come back. So we have 5 minutes in the past trailing video accompanying our present moment audio.
Seemingly, yes.
What the heck?
That
Let's
is
go
sad.
with it.
Let's just keep forging on. The show must go on.
All right, we will approach it that way. So, Dr. Hal, actually, we're coming to the end of our question, so it's a shame that it couldn't have waited just that extra few minutes. Let me make sure I don't have any others in my queue that have come forward. And let me see. Nope, our queue seems to have... Oh, I do have one more from Reverend Griffin. And it is... I will find it in just a moment. Here it is. Oh, here's one from Reverend Cogliostro X.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a $10 question. Was the Big Bang a mistake?
Well, was the Big Bang a deluge? Did it destroy a prior universe? Or did it simply set our own into motion? Perhaps it destroyed a heavenly climb of perfection, but we, imperfect sublunar creatures, will never know that. We can only answer from our standpoint. And without the Big Bang, from our standpoint, there would be no joy in Mudville or anywhere else. No pleasure of intellection, nothing to learn, no kindness to give or receive, and worst of all, no Ask Dr. Hal show. So I would say it was not a mistake from where we stand here on our own particular planet.
Hal, you'll be happy to know it looks like we seem to be back in the saddle again. So
we're back.
I do have a question here. It's a $3 question from Reverend Adorno.
All right.
Is this loss?
Is what loss? Does it say?
It just says, is this loss?
Well, that would be the question. The question is lost and represents the quality of loss if I fail to answer it. But curiously enough, if I say it is not loss, I get the chance to determine it. So you gain something, a slight something, by answering, by getting an answer to a tricky question. And let me say, questions don't have to be tricky. My answers have to be entertaining. The questions can be actual questions. But I have a feeling that this falls below the meniscus of the entertainment quotient. So I'm going to say this is no loss. This is a great gain, because here you are living your life, participating in an artistic, multidisciplinary endeavor with your friends present and seeing that you are there. Perhaps they will remember at odd times in their future lives and careers that you were indeed, though virtually, at their side as this happened. So I do not vote for loss. I do not weep and cry for what might have been. I take pleasure in what has actually occurred, the financial transfer of a small but necessary amount from you to me, Dr. Howland Owl.
We have a $6 question from Bella Via Mia.
Oh, good.
Dr. Hal, is the heart a lonely hunter?
Well, Carson McCullers said that, but I know your heart is not, and I believe that my heart is not. Some hearts may be. On the other hand, one does not engage in that hunt with the blessing or participation of other people, except at a very remote move. No, where love and lovers are concerned, there is no loneliness, whatever else there may be. And thanks so much for that question. So appropriate to Valentine's Day.
Well, Hal, I think we're getting to the bottom of our queue here. Let me go ahead and just make sure that we have answered. Oh, no, we do have one more. I do remember seeing it. I will find it here in just a moment. It is from our friend, Reverend Griffin.
Good.
And it is here. Yes, here it is. Dr. Hal. In the hills of England, we have treacle mines. Techno wizards mine coins on their computers. What would you mine for?
I would and do mine for art. Art mines are available in the noosphere and digitally. All sorts of things have been put online, but many others that have not been put online can still be mined. One has to look for things. One may be unknowingly shuffling over buried treasure a foot beneath one's self. The point is to dig a little bit. The treasures of time lie high in urns, coins, and monuments, scarce below the roots of some vegetable. And in the deep discovery of the subterranean world, a shallow part would satisfy some inquirers who would not be content to rake the bowels of Potosi and regions toward the center. Nature has furnished one part of the earth and man another. If you don't go looking, you won't find anything.
And I'm looking at the queue now to see if we have more questions. And let me check my notes here. And I think we got everything tonight, Hal. So I think we had a good show aside from a minor Twitch glitch.
Well, that's unfortunate, but wasn't any of our doing, and I hope our audience was tolerant and forbearant and will join us for a half an hour in the chat room or whatever you call it after this is over. But for now, we need to begin our outro.
We're going to descend. Bring us home, Dave.
Can I see it in your eye? Through those windows to your soul. Am I blinded to your lies? Am I too in love to know? How can anything so beautiful like angels made in glass the sunlight shine like halos in my eyes. Just shatter now and pass. Can I feel it in your touch? Or have I lost my mind? The sensation's all too much. With so much more to find. How can anything so beautiful like angels made in glass make the sunlight shine like halos in my eyes? Just shatter now and pass. All right, Pontius, take it away.
The Dr. Hal Show would like to thank everyone who was involved or contributed to this month's show. We would especially like to thank Professor Gofflin, Zero Boy, Susie Davis and Jeff Greenwald of Tight Pajamas, Dr. Billy and the Empire Jazz Orchestra, Saint Ray Harryhausen, as well as our stage ghost, Saint Joyce, who is rarely seen but always present, without whom I would be totally lost. This Valentine's Day, remember to show us some love by liking us and following us on Twitch. Also, look for this and previous shows on the Ask Dr. Hal YouTube archive. Links for this and more can be found on our website at gonzotronics.net/ADH. We'll see you next month, March 14th. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Take it away, Saint Inkfinger.
When I lie awake at night, and the darkness hides away the light, are those halos dimmed and gone? Is loving you so wrong? How can anything so beautiful like angels made in glass make the sunlight shine like halos in my eyes? Just shatter now and pass. How can anything so beautiful like angels made in glass make the sunlight shine like halos in my eyes? Just shatter now and pass. Take it away, Hal.
Thank you, Saint Inkfinger. My closing recitation will lead into an extra special treat, which we have added for our pagan friends at Winterstar. And as we end, I will perform In the Beginning by Dylan Thomas. In the beginning was the three-pointed star, a smile of light across the empty face, a bow of bone against the routing air, the substance forked that marrowed the first sun, and burning ciphers on the round of space, heaven and hell mixed as they spun. In the beginning was the pale signature, three-syllabled and starry as the smile, and after came the imprint on the waters, stamp of the minted face upon the moon, the blood that touched the cross tree and the grail touched the first cloud and left a sign. In the beginning was the mounting fire that set alight the weathers from a spark, a three-eyed, red-eyed spark, blunt as a flower. Life rose and spouted in the rolling seas, burst from the roots, pumped from the earth and rock the secret oils that drive the grass. In the beginning was the word that from the solid bases of the light abstracted all the letters of the void, and from the cloudy bases of the breath, the word flowed up, translating to the heart first characters of birth and death. In the beginning was the secret brain. The brain was celled and soldered in the thought before the pitch was forking to a sun, before the veins were shaken in their sieve, blood shot and scattered to the winds of light, the ribbed original of love. Happy Valentine's Day, and now to see in action the secret oils that drive the grass, we take you to the underground world and show you how spring actually occurs with this wonderful harmonizing cartoon made by MGM, by Hugh Harmon and Rudy Ising, toward the spring we're all searching for and waiting for. To spring.